Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now, recently we've been talking about hacking quite a bit because, once again, it kind of came to the forefront. And we were talking about seizing the flight controls of a ship, and we were using the example of a cargo ship, say, traveling to or from a destination. Like, let's say here, you're flying over a planet, you're on your way to your landing site, and someone could seize control of your ship and cause it to crash. Now, a lot hasn't been made clear about how that all works. And recently, another player was raised a thread in Spectrum, and hopefully I will have the link in the description below because I think it's a really good thread and you should check it out. But one of the respondents, which I believe his name was CB Seaton, placed some quotes from Matt Sherman in regards to hacking. Now, a lot of these quotes came from 2015, so once again, that is 3 years ago, and so things change between now and then. But I think it still kind of gives a good idea of where their heads are at, but it kind of fleshed things out a little bit, or once again, things can change, but I think it kind of gave a better idea of how they plan for all these things to work. So there's kind of a couple of pieces that I wanted to pull out of that. Now, one of the first things, so hopefully, once again, the link will be in the description below. Fingers crossed. I usually remember, but I have on occasion forgotten. But one of the first things was, when we were talking about kind of hacking into a ship and, taking over its controls, Matt Sherman said that in order to do things like that, like let's say we're using the Herald as an example, in order to do things like that, you still have to hit that ship with a data spike missile first. So like a Herald can intercept transmissions, it can decrypt transmissions, that sort of things, but the more involved stuff is going to require you to actually attach a data spike missile or hit that ship with a data spike missile in order to directly start hacking into their systems. So there's one layer of defense right there. Now, the data spike missile is also not supposed to be a permanent thing. It's something that you attach to the ship and it has an expiry. It's only there for a limited amount of time, though once again, the system not having been built out, there are no definitive figures to give you, but there are defenses that you can use still at that point to stop a hack from occurring. And that is probably going to be what you're going to need to do. Well, based on what they've told us, to take over somebody's flight controls. So in a situation where you got like a lot of fighters kind of buzzing around a target, let's say a Caterpillar or whatever, for a Herald, it might be a good idea to have a couple of these data spike missiles loaded up, and maybe you can make a quick pass, get a couple of missiles attached to that person's hull, or maybe just one or two, and then if you have to do it again, then you come back and you hit them again. But then you can kind of move off to a safer distance and start hacking into that ship, right? So you still got to get in there and get that first missile hit. Now, a big ship will probably be easier to hit than a smaller one, so that could be a really good thing for, if you're in a fighter and you're worried about getting hacked. I guess if the missile hits you, then you might be in a lot of trouble, but if you can dodge the missile or you can, distract it with a flare or with chaff, then you should be all right. Bigger ship, maybe you might be in a little bit more trouble, but you'll probably have the facilities or the crew on hand to help you prevent the hack or recover from the hack once it happens. And that's kind of the upward limit, I guess, of what you can do with a data spike, or at least what they're intending. Now, if you can get an infiltrator aboard that ship and you can physically be there to directly hack that ship, then you can possibly even overload their power core, which sounds kind of promising, or even trigger a self-destruct, though I guess obviously there would have to be a countdown, because otherwise your infiltrator would be shit out of luck. Now, this was also kind of hinted at in the recent dev chat when they were talking about being able to breach a door or open a door without having to destroy it on a ship. You know, they were talking about that. And so having somebody who can physically go out there and kind of open up the door on a ship and slip in and maybe start doing things, you know, on a ship like a Freelancer, it's going to be hard to hide, or on a ship like, you know, a Cutlass, it's going to be hard to hide. But on a bigger ship, say like a Caterpillar or something like that, you know, you might have a chance to do some like Solid Snake type sneak mission onto the ship to get to the computer core, and then, you know, do whatever you got to do that way. Now, I don't know if CIG plans to sell a cardboard box that we can hide under and then crawl all the way up there like Solid Snake, but I mean, it would be a nice and kind of a funny touch. I mean, even World of Warcraft has a little toy that you can put on your rogue that makes them look like a cardboard box sneaking around, so that would be kind of fun to see that in Star Citizen, just as a little tip of the hat or an homage. But that also adds some elements of some really exciting, intense gameplay that could be really fun. I mean, like if you look at a situation like this where you're going in at a cargo site like Shubin or ArcCorp or whatever, especially, you know, at night, you could be hiding down there behind one of the crates or behind one of the boxes, and if someone gets out and goes to purchase goods or whatever, you could sneak onto their ship, hack in and get into their ship and start, you know, messing around with their computer. And it kind of goes back to another point that I made a while ago in a video where I was talking about, you know, NPC and having NPC characters on your ship. And I always said that, you know, I plan to have a couple just running ship security and patrolling my ship. And, you know, that's kind of one of the reasons for that. Because, I mean, if you think about it, this is something that we've been doing for a long time, you know, especially I've done some videos where I've snuck onto people's ships and, you know, just had fun that way. But if you think about it, if you can sneak onto somebody's ship and then get to that computer core, then you might be able to shut that ship down or cause that ship to crash. And that's another avenue that players could secure against, but another avenue that pirates could also take advantage of, sneaking onto people's ships and, you know, doing your damage that way. And so just having that data spike isn't going to do that for you. You're probably going to have to physically get onto the ship if you really want to like have a good chance of causing it to crash or otherwise damaging the ship. But then you're going to still have to have a way off of the ship depending on how destructive that hack is. You know, you might need a parachute as well. Now, another thing that Matt Sherman pointed out, and you know, once again, it's a good read, and I think you should check it out, is, you know, he's talking about when you're setting up your Herald to do these kinds of things, whether it's, you know, intercepting transmissions and decrypting transmissions, or it's hacking or whatever, you're going to have to set your Herald up a certain way to do those things. So it's not just, oh, I have a Herald so I can hack and decrypt, you know, till the cows come home. No, you have to have your ship set up a certain way. So, you know, there's going to be a hacking setup for your computer and the equipment that you need to get, or the software that you need to get to make all that run, but you can only have certain combinations of things. So you just can't say, well, I'm plus 10 hacking, you know, plus 10 decryption, whatever. You know, it's going to be a balance, kind of like, in a way, kind of like setting up a D&D character where, you know, you can have X amount of strength, but you need intellect for spell casting. So you know how much strength, how much intellect, how much stamina. You're going to have to do that kind of balancing. Something similar to that when you're setting up your Herald to make sure you can, you know, do the tasks that you've set out to accomplish. And you know, and honestly, you know, like there are things that obviously I disagree with CIG on, you know. But really, you know, I like where their head is at on the hacking and E-War thing. I really like the direction that they're going in. And I hope that they get to developing this system soon. I realize that there's a lot in the component system, and a lot of these components that we would need to do this stuff, the missiles, the equipment, the interfaces, all of that is still stuff that has yet to be designed. And so all of that has to kind of come first before you can kind of put all this together and make it into a playable system, even just for testing. But this is a system that I'm very excited to get my hands on, and I think it's going to be a really good addition to the game. I think it's going to add a lot of depth and a lot of fun gameplay and a lot of exciting gameplay, but once again, it's just not that one touch, oh, here's the big red hack button on my console, boom, and then I have control of your ship. It's going to require some real skill and some real time investment and some real, going out and learning the information and learning how to do things to get this done. And I honestly, once again, I wish that it was here so that we could start looking at it, but unfortunately, this is still something that is probably the better part of a year, year and a half away before we see it. So it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow, so there's plenty of time to look at it and learn as it kind of comes into play, and either from the point of view of someone who's trying to defend against it, or from the point of view of someone who's going to try to exploit it. There's plenty of time left to kind of figure out how it's all going to work and how you can best benefit from that information. So, yeah, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.